Welcome back. We just talked about how prophecy was important and why prophecy was important. Now we're going to move into our next stage, which is the introduction to the book of Revelation. You know, the book of Revelation is a very complex book. It has a lot of symbolism. People are very scared when they read it. They don't understand it, so they really don't want to read the book of Revelation. My hope and my desire for you is that at the end of this, you will want to read the book of Revelation. You'll want to study it. You'll want to know more about what is happening in the future. So a little background. First, we want to talk about John. John was a fisherman. It was John that Jesus gave his mother to at the cross. John is one of the closest disciples of Jesus. He is actually known as the beloved John. And he also discipled Polycarp, who was a bishop of the church of Smyrna, and possibly Ignatius, who was a bishop of Antioch. Now that's important because there are people who say that outside the New Testament there's no references to the disciples. Well, that's not true. As we look into John, we see first of all that John authored 5 books of the New Testament: the Gospel of John, the epistles of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and the book of Revelation. Believe it or not, he is credited to have about 5% of the entire Bible. Now, you have to understand again that he is a fisherman. He's never been trained. He didn't graduate with a literature degree in Harvard or Yale. I mean, he was a fisherman. Now, fishermen were not supposed to be very intelligent. As a matter of fact, in Acts chapter 4, verse 13, it says, "Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus." You see, a little bit about my story. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. I've got 2 brothers. They've both been in the penitentiary 3 times. Uncle has been in the penitentiary 3 times. And I was in reform school by the time I was 15 years old for drugs. And I can tell you right now that my 2 brothers, one was 2 years older than I was, and one's 4 years older than I was, and all 3 of us were in the 6th grade together. My brother's the only guy I know dropped out of 6th grade and got his driver's license the same day. That's true. But I'm here to say that you don't have to be highly intelligent for God to use you. You just have to be used and want to be used. I mean, with John, they tried to boil him in oil, and that didn't work. Then they exiled him to Patmos. He's the only disciple that died of natural causes. God gave John the book of Revelation in a cave in the Isle of Patmos. The book of Revelation of Jesus Christ was written between AD 94 and AD 98. Now, this island that he was on, the Isle of Patmos, was like a penal colony. It was like the Alcatraz of Asia. It was 7 miles long and 6 miles wide. I remember years ago, I was living in San Francisco, and my mother came out to visit me, and we were going over the Bay Bridge, and I said to her, I said, "Mom, look over there, there's Fisherman's Wharf." Mm-hmm. I said, "Look over there, there's the Golden Gate Bridge." Mm-hmm. And I said, "You see that little island out there?" "Mm-hmm. That's Alcatraz." She goes, "Where?" I mean, she knew about penal colonies because my family lived very sheltered lives. We were all locked up. Now, J. Vernon McGee said this: "The book of Revelation is the only prophetic book in the New Testament. It contrasts to 17 prophetic books in the Old Testament." Revelation is divided into 4 ages, 4 separate ages. 1, the church age, and that's chapters 1 through 3. The tribulation period, that's Revelation chapter 4 through 19. Then you have the kingdom age, which is chapter 20, and the eternal state, chapter 21. So when we look at the book of Revelation, There are 5 basic views of the book of Revelation, and I'll go through those with you today. One is the preterist view, and this is becoming a very popular view. The preterist view is that they believe that the references in Revelation they've already happened around AD 70. Ron Rhodes writes this: the word preterism is a Latin for preter, meaning past. In this view, the biblical prophecies in the book of Revelation, especially chapters 6 through 18 and Matthew 24 and 25, Christ's Olivet Discourse, have already been fulfilled in the past. And many preterists actually believe that we are living in some form of the new heaven or the new earth of Revelation chapter 21 and chapter 22. If that's true, I'd like to read these to you. There have been 27 school shootings so far in 2022. Footage show flash mobs and looters ransacking 7-Eleven stores in Los Angeles, August 19, 2022. American murder rate increased in 2020, has no modern precedents, crime analyst group finds. If we're living in the new heaven and the new earth, why did he destroy the first one? Now, preterism is divided into 2 different branches. One, the partial preterism. They believe that the bodily resurrection and the second coming of Christ. They do believe that. The partial preterists, they believe the body is resurrection, and they believe that the prophecies in the New Testament are in the future, including Revelation. Now, I have to ask this question: how can we prepare for something to happen when it's already happened? Why would he give the book of Revelation that we would read today and it didn't apply to us? The whole scriptures, what's amazing about the scriptures is it doesn't matter when you're living, it's applicable to your life. No matter what culture you live in, what era you lived in, it's still the same thing. Now, the Bible says in 2 Peter 3:10, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. Not only that, but it also says in Matthew chapter 25, verse 13, watch therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh. And in the same way, when you see all these things, you know his return is very near, right at the door, Matthew chapter 24, 33. If the book of Revelation was about the life around AD 70, when did these things happen? When did 1/3 of mankind die? According to Revelation chapter 9:18. Every living creature in the sea died. Revelation chapter 16, verse 3. Now, you know, I ate at Red Lobster the other day. There's still creatures in the sea. 2 prophets died in the streets of Jerusalem, and the whole world saw them. When did that happen? A 200 million man army crossed the Euphrates River, Revelation 9:16. The world's population didn't reach 1 billion until 1804. It only took 100 years to reach 2 billion. Today there's about 8 billion. So they did not have an army in AD 70 of 200 million. And that's exactly the number that the book of Revelation talks about. When did the Euphrates dry up? Now, that happened in the 70s. Turkey and Syria started damming up the Euphrates River in 1970s. So this didn't happen way back then. There was a flowing river. As a matter of fact, the flowing river of the Euphrates actually went through the Garden of Eden. So it has always been there, but they said it was be dried up, and it is because they're damming it up in Turkey and Syria. Had the whole world heard the gospel in AD 70? The Bible says, Matthew 24:14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for the witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Just when did that happen? You know, I teach the pastor's Sunday school class at Thomas Road Baptist Church. It's actually the class that Jerry Falwell started 60 years ago. And through our Timothy initiative, we have raised and trained over 300,000 pastors. If they were an army, they would rank 15th largest army in the world. You know, the Jesus film, it says this: since 1979, the Jesus Film Project and strategies have been utilized in 7.5 billion gospel presentations in more than 230 countries. And for many individuals in remote areas around the world, Jesus is the first motion picture they have ever viewed. It is now in 1,500 languages. Now you'll see at the top here that there is a guy on a motorcycle, and he's got a backpack. That's a very unique backpack because in that backpack, he has a projection system that actually runs off of solar power. And so he can take that to the darkest part of anywhere that has no electricity, and they can view the gospel of Jesus Christ. Not only that, but the Taliban is killing people in Afghanistan if they find copies of the Bible on their cell phones. And you know what we're finding now? We're finding out now that they have these little bitty chips that you can actually put in a cell phone, and when someone comes, they can actually pull that out of the cell phone and actually not be killed for it. You see, anytime you download something, it leaves a footprint. So if a Taliban member comes and he sees you've downloaded that app, they can kill you. But if you put this little chip in, you can watch the Jesus film, you can have Bible studies and everything with your cell phone. And then if you see them coming, you can pull it out and eat it or hide it because it's very, very small. But we're getting the gospel out. Preterism produces one of the more extreme forms of replacement theology because it widely teaches that the theme of Revelation is about God's divorce of Israel, which is replaced by the bride of Christ, meaning the church. And that's from Israel My Glory website. My question is this: if God has divorced the Jews, why does he seal 144,000 of them and protects them from all the plagues? Not only that, but I believe that the two witnesses are Jews. I believe it personally. I believe it will be Moses and Elijah. As a matter of fact, what you're looking at right here is actually a Passover table. And Jewish people, the Jews, will use this. And you'll notice that there's a goblet off to the side. That goblet is specifically for Elijah. They believe that he is going to come back and sup with them. That's the reason why when the two prophets come, I believe one of them is going to be Elijah, because the Jews are looking for him. And when he comes back, they'll be ready for him. Jesus is referred to in the book of Revelation by his Jewish roots. That's another reason why I believe he doesn't leave the Jews. Revelation chapter 5:5 says, "And one of the elders said to me, 'Stop weeping. Behold, the Lion that is of the tribe of Judah,'" which is Jew, "'the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seals." So we know that he has not denied the Jews. He's made a covenant with the Jews. And because it's an unconditional covenant, that simply means that no matter what the Jews do, he made a covenant with them. It's unconditional. It's not conditional.